Hello and welcome back to Animal Farm. In this video, I'm going to be talking about Chapter 3. If you missed Chapter 1 and 2, I'll link the video below. I'm going to do some summary and then some analysis, a little bit of history and essay work. So check the timestamps in the video notes and find exactly what you need. Go ahead and skip around. All right, so let's get right into it. Chapter 3, it is summertime on Animal Farm and the hay harvest is in. It was a huge success and everyone is so happy with themselves. Everybody took part, just worked as hard as they could, except for the pigs. They're just there to supervise, but it's all good. It's all good. Morale is really good. There's plenty of food. Everybody's getting good rest. There's no beat downs happening. It's a good time to be on Animal Farm. Now, Boxer is like the top guns of Animal Farm. Like, he is the rock star. He can work longer than anyone else. He's the strongest one in all of the farm. And he answers every single question, every single problem with, I'll work harder. I've got this. You're amazing, Boxer. All right, so on Sundays, they have their meetings. No longer in secret. Way to go, guys. So Sunday meetings, first thing that they do is salute the Animal Farm flag. This is the green banner flag with the hoof and horn to symbolize the Republic of the Animals that is coming sometime in the future. After that, they plan for the week and they vote and debate over resolutions that anybody can put forward. As it turns out, only the pigs are putting forward any resolutions. No one else can think of any, apparently. So Snowball and Napoleon are the guys who are still kind of running things. They're the most active in the debates. However, they really can't get along. It seems like no matter what the idea is, the other one has to shoot it down. Even when something comes up that it seems like everyone can agree on, these two are going to fight over how it should be done. They cannot find any common ground. In Chapter 3, what they're really clashing over is education. Now, Snowball wants all of the animals on Animal Farm to be educated. He wants them taking part. He wants them invested. He organizes everybody into committees and gives them projects to work on. You know, guys, we are all in this together. For the most part, these projects don't really pan out. They're kind of a wash. But he also sets up reading and writing classes, and everyone loves them. They are a huge success, even though most of the animals don't actually learn to read in them. The sheep are kind of just a lost cause. They can't even learn the 7 commandments. So Snowball's like, don't worry, guys. I got you. You don't have to learn the 7 commandments. All I want you to learn is 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. That is the essence of animalism. Just remember those 6 words and it will keep you on the right path. The sheep love it. They just hang out in the pasture all the time chanting 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. It's like, it makes their summer. It's a huge thing. Napoleon, the other pig, meanwhile, is not really on board with all of this. He thinks it is a waste of time and energy to educate all the adult animals. He's like, guys, we should just be focusing on the young, just the babies. Pretty soon, a couple of the dogs have puppies, and Napoleon's like, I'm going to show you guys what I'm talking about. I'm going to educate these puppies myself. So he takes the puppies away from their mother and secludes them. He keeps them apart from everyone in a room above the harness room. Nobody else can really get up there. Everybody just kind of forgets about these puppies. Meanwhile, if you remember back in Chapter 2, the fresh milk had gone missing. Everybody went out to harvest hay. Then buckets of milk went missing in the meantime. Well, we find out in Chapter 3, the milk is getting mixed into the pigs' breakfast mash. Everybody's a little bummed about this, but they let it go. No big deal. Well, autumn is coming on and the apple crop is coming in. Everybody's excited. We're getting some fresh apples. Well, it turns out that the pigs take all the apples too. Now, everybody's really disappointed about this one. I'm like, man, I thought all of the food belonged to all of us. But Squealer comes out to save the day and he explains everything and makes it okay. He's like, guys, we're not doing this because we're selfish. In fact, we don't even like fresh milk and apples. No, the reason that we're doing this is because science says that fresh milk and apples are really good for a pig's brain. Yes, so we need it to have healthy brains. And because we're the brains of this operation and we're the leaders and the supervisors and we're smarter than all of you and you need us to be in charge, we've just got to take these milk and apples, because if we fail at our job, then Jones will come back. Oh my gosh, you guys, do you want Jones to come back? And everybody's like, no. Okay, if you guys need milk and apples to keep Jones from coming back, you Go right ahead. Go right ahead. We're cool with it. And the pigs were like, thanks, guys. Glad you're on board. In chapter 3. So some of the newness is starting to wear off Animal Farm. But for now, let's check in on some history. Now, Communist Revolution happened in 1917. The Bolshevik Revolution happened in 1917, left the Communist Party in charge of Russia with Vladimir Lenin at the head of the party. Now, Lenin was an idea guy. He wanted some reforms, wanted to make some changes. So he did form a lot of committees. He gave people projects he wanted to see change. Now, he also made kind of a godfather of all committees, a group called the Politburo. It was 7-ish guys, so it was a small group, and they were the absolute authority in terms of lawmaking, policy making. All the decision power was at this one table. Vladimir Lenin, Joseph Stalin, and Leon Trotsky were all on the very first Politburo together. Now, unfortunately for Lenin, he didn't really get to see how things were going to pan out in the Soviet Union. His health declined. He passed away in 1924. This left a seat at the head of the table. A lot of people were interested in kind of sliding into it, and two of them were Joseph Stalin and Leon Trotsky. So I wonder how this is going to go. All right, we'll check in on more history later. Let's get back to the novel and do a little bit of analysis. Now, headed into chapter 3, you're going to see a big bump up in the ironic tone that the author is using. Now, to be fair, there's about 1,000 definitions of irony, to be honest. No one can really agree on exactly what it is. But in this case, I'm talking about dramatic irony, like Greek tragedy style stuff, like Oedipus Rex and Antigone style stuff. The Greeks loved their theater, and the ancient Greeks' theater was based on popular myths. It was stories that all of the people would have known. So when the ancient Greeks sat down to watch a play, they already knew how that story was going to end. So all the characters that they saw on stage believed that everything that they're saying and that they're doing is leading them closer and closer to destination success, to destination dreams come true. In the meantime, the audience can see how everything that they're saying and doing is actually leading them to destination failure, destination disaster and ruin. That is dramatic irony. And Animal Farm does the exact same thing. The Russian Revolution happened 100 years ago. We know how it turned out. We know how this book ends. We know who landed on the Iron Throne. So what we should pay attention to is how they got there. Now, in chapter 3, education becomes a very key concept. In chapter 2, you'll remember the pigs had this big reveal where, guess what, guys? We secretly learned to read and write, and we didn't share it with any of you. In chapter 3, they're still doing this. They are taking books from the farmhouse, and they're keeping them in the harness room, and they're studying. They're learning science, technology, agriculture, skilled trades like blacksmithing and carpentry, stuff you can't just pick up. You have to be educated in it. But they aren't sharing these books with any of the other animals. They're keeping the other animals on a manual labor path while they're giving themselves options. They are letting themselves expand. They're giving themselves choices that the other animals don't have because they don't have access to this knowledge resource. Also, it's interesting that they're keeping those books in the harness room. The first thing the animals did after they ran Jonesy off the farm is they trashed the harness room. It's where things like the dog chains, the feed bags, the whips, all the instruments of control were kept in the harness room. Now the harness room is full of books. That lets us know that the books, like knowledge, education, is going to become a new instrument of control against the animals. Let's talk about the reading classes that were such a great success. Now, I know the speaker says that, but then he spends 2 pages talking in great detail about how most of the animals didn't learn to read. So if you had a reading class and no one learns to read, what is so successful about it? I have a theory, and it's just my theory. This is totally open to interpretation. The pigs called the classes a success because they were serving the pigs' purposes. They met all the pigs' goals. The power structure on the farm is reflected by how much the animals learned in those reading classes. So the group that learns the most is the dogs. but they only learn enough to read the 7 commandments. Now, the dogs are the group that is closest to the pigs. And we'll see later on, they actually become the pigs' police force. They become their enforcers. So it's very good that they can read the 7 commandments. They can read the law, but the pigs don't teach them any more than that. They don't insist that they learn any more than just the 7 commandments because they don't want a competitive group. The dogs are more physically powerful than the pigs. They don't want the dogs learning so much that they could challenge the pigs for authority. That's my theory. Moving on to like the muscle animals, the beasts of burden. Boxer and Clover both learn some of the alphabet, but they never are really able to get any words put together. I think this is the pigs doing again. Now, Boxer is the most admired animal on the farm. He's the most dedicated worker. He's a rock star. Meanwhile, everybody loves Clover. She's like the mom of the farm. Everyone is totally in love with Boxer and Clover. I think the pigs cannot afford for them to learn to read at all. I think if Boxer and Clover had access to all of the knowledge resource that the pigs do, they would be a serious threat to the pigs' leadership. And so the pigs are very careful to, sabotage their classes or keep them so busy they can't go to reading class. They make sure Boxer and Clover can't read. They cannot lead the other animals. Now, there are some of the bigger animals that do learn to read. Benjamin learns to read really well, but he's not interested in doing it. He's not interested in having any books. He's not interested in even studying the 7 commandments. He says there's nothing worth reading. He's not a threat to the pigs. He's not interested in expanding himself. Now, Muriel, on the other hand, learns to read and is eager to read. She wants to learn. She's excited about it, but she does not get access to the pigs' books. The only thing that Muriel is allowed to read, she reads to the other animals because she wants them to learn. The only thing she's allowed to read are bits of newspaper that she picks out of the trash. Once they have someone that is willing and able to read and learn and expand themselves that way, the pigs have to make really sure, they have to be really careful that she doesn't get any further knowledge resources. She does not have any more power than that. Then we have the herd animals. I think they don't learn to read because the pigs don't need to teach them. The herd animals, the sheep in particular, represent blind conformity on the farm. The pigs know that they're going to follow no matter what. They're going to obey no matter what. So there is no point in spending any time on these guys. Just give them their little battle cry. Their 4 legs good, 2 legs bad. That will become useful later on. Remember, it's all about what is useful to the pigs. That is my theory about the reading classes. So I take my theory and I apply it to other parts of the chapter, and it all makes more sense to me. Like the Sunday meetings where nobody else can come up with any resolutions. Well, remember, we've just talked so much about who learned to read, how much, and everything. The speaker spends a lot of time on that. He does not say that any of the animals learned to write. As far as we know, only the pigs have learned to write. Now, in both the U.S. Congress and the British Parliament, you can't just dial in and be like, guys, I have an idea. Make it a law. Thanks, bye. It doesn't work like that. The first thing that you have to do is write a bill. Then it has to go to committee. It has to be debated and researched and picked apart and put back together. It's a very long process, but it starts with writing a bill. So if you can't write, your idea is not getting made into a resolution. It's not going anywhere. So the pigs aren't keeping the other animals, like they're not making laws that the other animals can't participate. They're just making sure that they don't have any of the tools that they need to actually take part in the democratic process. The other animals are being disenfranchised by their lack of education. Disenfranchised means you strip someone of their rights. You take their rights away. Let's talk about Squealer's speech as well. So he says that the pigs have to have the fresh milk and apples because science. Because science. It's really hard to argue science with the one person that owns all the science books. None of the other animals have access to any of this reading material. How are they supposed to challenge Squealer on this? Even if they could say, well, show us the book that says that, show us the fact sheet, show us the study. Even if Squealer were to bring out, a ton worth of paper materials and put it down in front of them, they can't read it. It's no good to them. They can't argue even though the pigs are taking community property. They're taking away something. They are stealing something that is supposed to belong to everyone. But the other animals can't say it's wrong because they haven't been taught to. The other kind of creepy thing that comes up, if most of the animals can't read, that means they can't read the 7 commandments. Most of them are just memorizing them. They're learning them by heart. That's all well and good until someone starts challenging your memory. Until somebody says, "Are you sure you heard that? Are you sure you're remembering that right?" That will come into play later on in the story. If your rights are being challenged, if they're being taken away and you can't point to a written law to defend yourself, the problems are going to escalate really quickly. Law is not perfect, obviously, but it's your first line of defense. That's why everybody is always saying, know your rights, know your rights, know your rights under the law. Learn what you can do and what you can't do. It's very important. All right, so that's all I've got for chapter 3. If you've got a question or I missed something, drop it in the comments. I will do my best to help, and I will see you in the next chapter. Good luck.